My longtime friend, Dave Richard from CBS Sports, is going to try to both ease my mind and yours. 339-1140, 1-800-920-1140 if you want to add to the peeps already on hold. Remember, you can follow Dave at Dave Richard, CBS Sports HQ, also on Twitter as well. Hear him, see him, read him, and listen to him right now. Good morning, David. How are you?
I'm good, Dave. I would say, how are you? And I would assume you'd say good, but I'm not so sure you're good after what I'm hearing.
I'm pissed, Dave. I was saying earlier, I won't repeat it all because people are listening, but I got screwed by Le'Veon Bell last year. And I thought Austin Eckler was going to be my James Conner this year. And now Anthony Lynn's saying, no, Melvin Gordon's going to be the guy. And on top of that, he can't even commit to the fact that Gordon's not going to play this weekend. So I'm just going to have this little thing in my head that Melvin Gordon is going to show up on Sunday and take 90% of the carries. I know that's not going to happen. But they're playing the Dolphins this weekend, so my question for you is this the big send-off for Austin Eckler as a usable fantasy tool against the Dolphins?
Break out the balloons and the sheet cake, Dave. This is the send-off. This is the farewell. This is the au revoir, because once Melvin Gordon comes back, he's going to resume his role as the starter. And look, at least Anthony Lynn told us.
Yeah.
He's not beating around the bush. He didn't say, well, we've got to see. It's going to be a split. It's going to be a committee. We knew which way this was going to go. At least Anthony Lynn came out and he said, he's our starter. We're going to use him the same way as we did last year. And it makes sense for the Chargers to do it because they probably don't have an intention of giving him a large contract extension. Otherwise, he would have been in camp months ago, and he would have already been playing this year. So they're probably going to squeeze as much as they can out of Melvin Gordon. It makes perfect sense. Let him be the lead guy. It will eventually push Austin Eckler into a role where he's getting 10 touches per game, somewhere in that neighborhood. Could be 5 carries, 5 catches. Could be 8 carries, 2 catches, something like that. And, the gravy train is over with Austin Eckler, but you had a good run. You got one last hurrah, and it should be a big one against the Dolphins. And then after this season, it's going to be interesting. So if you've got him in a dynasty league or a keeper league, Dave, he's going to have some value going into next year because he might be the Chargers' lead back next year. Once they say goodbye to Melvin Gordon, it could be Eckler leading the way and getting that type of big workload that Melvin got and will get.
Okay, so for example, and I'm sure a lot of people are dealing with stuff like this, I had a trade proposed to me, Wayne Gallman for Austin Eckler. Do you take that deal?
I don't think so, because first of all, I'm not a big Wayne Gallman fan, and I'm on the hunch that A, he's going to share carries with somebody. It doesn't have to be somebody good. It's just going to be somebody. And B, I think the Giants coaching staff just loves Daniel Jones, and they're going to lean on him more than they will Wayne Gallman. I'd still rather have Eckler, and, let's just put it out there. Melvin Gordon has not been the healthiest running back in the course of his career. He's coming back after holding out. We don't know what kind of shape he's in. There's always the chance of an injury risk. I think Austin Eckler's got value rest of season, and he could end up being just fine. So giving him away for Wayne Gallman isn't the move I would do.
Okay. All right. So, but it sounds to me like you're kind of inching towards, even though Eckler's use as a starting fantasy guy may be going away this weekend, I don't hear you saying cut him.
Absolutely not.
Okay.
Why would you do that to benefit potentially the guy that sat on Melvin Gordon and waited for him to come back and is going to win on that, by the way, because if we knew that Melvin Gordon was going to miss 4 games, I'm pretty sure we would have had him as a bona fide second round running back. You're just helping your team, the rest of your league if you cut Austin Eckler.
Okay. All right. Dave Richard with us. Like a doctor even, telling me what I need to hear, not necessarily what I want to hear, no matter how bad the news is. All right. You want to go to the phones, Dave?
Let's do it.
Okay. All right. We're going to bring the rest of this thing. No more Austin Eckler. That's my fault. We're gonna end this second half of this interview on a good note, okay? I hope.
I feel some Miami Hurricanes ripping coming on.
I
know you too well, Dave. I know you've got some sort of, it's like the end of a roast when you're done roasting somebody. You build them up, and then you deliver like one last haymaker.
Oh, well.
And then you're out on a laugh.
My Florida State smack isn't doing too well this year, so we'll go to Vince. Vince, you're on with CBS Sports' Dave Richard.
Hey, Dave. I just wanted to start by saying thanks for the Nelson Aguilar suggestion last week. I made some money in my DraftKings lineup.
Ooh.
Excellent. Yeah, he was free money.
So this week I wanted to ask about Patrick Mahomes. I want to use him so bad in DFS, but he has like a $7,600 price tag. Do you suggest this would be the week I use him since there's a lot of value wide receivers, or should I just go with the for sure things like the Keenan Allens, the Sammy Watkins, or the DeAndre Hopkins?
I think Mahomes is a sure thing. At least on DraftKings, he's giving you at least 30 points each of 3 games. His price is $7,500, so you multiply that by 4. It's a little more than 30. I think he can get that. Here's a fun fact for you. This is his first career game indoors. So imagine that fast track and playing in the dome. The ball could travel a little bit farther, yeah. And the Lions' pass rush is third to worst in pass rush efficiency, according to Sports Info Solutions. So Mahomes is going to have all day to chuck it. That's going to lead to some good numbers. I don't think this Lions secondary, especially Darius Slay is banged up. No idea if he's going to play or not. Could be all systems go. I'm going to use the Mahomes-Watkins stack myself in daily this week.
By the way, did you hear what I heard? Did the caller, as he was going off of Patrick Mahomes, say, or should I just go with a sure thing? And did he name off Sammy Watkins as one of those sure things? Because I thought okay.
I think he was talking about other quarterbacks, because there are some other quarterbacks in DFS that are sure things. Guys like Matt Ryan, Russell Wilson, they've just been really good values all season long, and their prices, you could save 20% off of what you've got on Patrick Mahomes by going with one of them.
Well, and let me spin off that with Sammy Watkins. You and I have talked about this because we've seen it throughout the years of Sammy Watkins, who, by the way, I think is only 24, and it seems like he's been in the league 10 years. He had his 3...
He's getting younger. He's a vampire.
He really is. It's so strange. And I remember this dude at Clemson, and now we look at, he goes against Jacksonville with that huge 200-yard, 3-touchdown game, and then what do you know, shockingly, faces off against Oakland the next week. You figure 6 touchdowns in that game. 6 catches, 49 yards, no touchdowns against Baltimore the following week. Is Sammy Watkins still a let's assume 2-3 wide receivers and a flex. Is Watkins still a start for you?
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely 100% yes. By the way, he's 26 years old.
26, so I'm sorry. Okay.
You're definitely turning the clock back on Sammy. 21 targets in his last 2 games, 11 catches in the last 2 games, and he's playing a ton in the slot, which is something that I don't know if we necessarily expected him to do after the Tyreek Hill injury. And I almost think that helps him this week than hurts him against the Lions. We've seen slot receivers. I thought the Lions slot corner was a good slot corner. He's allowed a bunch of touchdowns, including 2 to Nelson Aguilar last week, both of them credited to Justin Coleman. So I think Sammy Watkins could certainly get a lot of usage in this offense. He already has been, and people are going to forget about him in DFS because it's been 2 dud weeks in a row. He is due. People are going to continue to start him in their seasonal leagues, and like I said, I'm going to use him in my stack and on DraftKings.
Dave Richards, CBS Sports with us. We still have people we want to get on, and those you go on hold, we will get you on. But we haven't really pushed back from the table yet this year. Some of my favorite conversations with you is when we talk about the philosophy of fantasy football or different things like that. The guy that just called was asking you about DFS, daily fantasy, and I am curious, for you and your colleagues, how much has daily fantasy changed, added, whatever the right term is, to what you do and how you do it? Do you go with the same type of philosophy that you do in recommending fantasy football, or is it a little bit different with daily fantasy? And how much, based on your tweets and your replies and people that are interacting with you, how much is daily fantasy really starting to make a dent or even take over your traditional fantasy football?
It's funny. I think it made a bigger dent 2 seasons ago than it has been now. I think the audience for it is kind of maybe topped off, I guess is probably the best way to say it. Maybe plateaued is even better way to say it. People still ask about it, but it's a different type of game than your typical fantasy league where you draft players and you make lineup decisions and you just go with it. There's more elements that are involved. You've got to consider the price that a player is. For example, Patrick Mahomes, the most expensive quarterback in daily fantasy. Do you really want to give up all the capital that you have to use for your whole lineup on the most expensive quarterback in the week, or do you want to go cheaper? Most people prefer to go cheaper, and I totally understand why. In some weeks, I think it's worth doing that. In some weeks, I think it's not. You also have to consider ownership percentage, and are you going to pick players that everybody's going to have? Like, I'll give you an example, and the best example I can give actually is Nelson Aguilar last week. The price was just too good to be true. It was under $4,000 on DraftKings. So, like, just unbelievable. Like, less than 10% of your budget was going to go to a player who was going to get a lot of work. When you have that opportunity, you take advantage of it. And there are players this week that you can take advantage of in DFS because their prices are low. Subsequently, there are players whose values are just way too high, especially players who did well the week before and maybe have a tougher matchup this week, and it's cost prohibitive. I'll give you a great one. Austin Eckler is priced at $8,000. So now we're talking about not quite 20% of your budget on Austin Eckler, and I know he's got a great matchup against Miami, and I expect Austin Eckler to go for 100 yards and a touchdown, but that's not good enough. You want to be able to get a return of better than that from your running back when the price tag is as high as it is. He's almost got to get you like 150 yards and a touchdown and 5-6 catches. It's the Dolphins, sure, he can do that, but I'd almost rather go with his teammate, Justin Jackson, who's had a touchdown called back in 2 straight games, and his price is half of that. Oh. So price matters a lot, and ownership percentage matters a ton. You don't want to pick the popular players, and you don't want to overpay for players. And it's almost like when you go shopping. You know, I don't know if ownership percentage really comes into play, but are you going to spend? Are you going to pay full price for something, or would you rather go and get it at a discount? The answer is almost always going to be get it at a discount. So the daily fantasy is the exact same type of premise.
Well, and maybe this can come over to regular fantasy football as well. And real quick before we get back to the phone, so if I've got a pie in front of you, a pie chart in front of you, how do you divide that pie up between individual talent of the player, scheme that the player is in, coach, etc., and also matchup? Maybe a lot of people are just looking at the individual player and his stats, but how much do you want to factor in that scheme and also, more importantly, the team they're going against? For example, the Dolphins this weekend with Eckler.
Yeah, Dave, you know I've been doing this for over 15 years, and I've really come to the conclusion that the matchup is the most important thing, and the opportunity is the second most important thing. And so that's why Wayne Gallman, like I started the week saying, I don't want Wayne Gallman on my team. He's going to be terrible. But you know what? He's going to be the starting running back for an NFL team. He's got a great matchup against a defense that's not only not great against the run, but they played on Sunday, and now they played on Monday, now they're on the road the following Sunday. It's a good opportunity, and it's a good matchup, and I think that warrants some consideration for Gallman. Is the talent great? No, not really. Is he going to completely botch 15 carries and turn it into 25 yards without a touchdown? I don't know if that's necessarily possible, but in fantasy, you certainly want to get guys who, in the Venn diagram, have the positive matchup and have the opportunities. Those two things almost matter more than talent. And then the reason why it does is because usually talent lends itself to getting those opportunities. Talent can't help you in the matchup. Sometimes, I guess I should say sometimes it can. But, like, for example, Dalvin Cook's going up against the Bears. It's a dangerous matchup. Is it scary enough to sit Dalvin Cook? Heck no, because he's a talented guy, and we know he's going to get a lot of opportunities. So talent and opportunity usually go hand in hand. In this case, it doesn't with Gallman because he's getting pushed into a role because Saquon Barkley's hurt, but he's got the other two factors going for him. When you've got all three of those factors going for you, you've got a great matchup, you've got great talent, and you're getting a big opportunity to show what you can do, that's usually when the big fantasy numbers come. That's why Keenan Allen is going to be the most popular guy in daily fantasy this week because he's the number one receiver in fantasy. He's got an unbelievable matchup against the Dolphins, and he's going to continue to be a great talent in the Chargers offense.
Dave Richard with us, CBS Sports. Back to the phones. Chris, you're on with the guru, Dave Richard of CBS Sports. Go ahead.
Hey, good morning, guys. So I've got a real dumpster fire at my quarterback situation this week. So here's my options that I could either pick up or play one of my guys: Derek Carr, Marcus Mariota, Gardner Minshew, or Trubisky.
You weren't kidding when you said dumpster fire, and there's nobody on the waiver wire. You can't get your hands on Daniel Jones, Case Keenum, or Kyle Allen.
I let him go, but I'm guessing no.
Okay, so we should probably guess no because he would have said so. But I do like Jones, Keenum, and Allen as great streaming options, starting options this week, and all three of them are going to be popular in daily as well. This will sound counterintuitive, but because I'm expecting Jacksonville to struggle against the Broncos, I think the Denver defense is going to play well this week. I have Trubisky ranked the highest of the group.
Oh,
yeah. I don't know how good I feel about that, but I think Chicago's going to try and run a little bit on Minnesota. I think the Vikings secondary has been a little suspect, and on the road, maybe they're not going to be as fast or as good as they are at home. So I'll stick with it. I'll say Trubisky is the right call.
All right, one more from the phones. Daniel, you're on with CBS Sports. Dave Richard.
How you doing, guys? A quick question. Cooper Kupp's on my bench. I'll probably never get in behind Julio, DeAndre, and Sammy Watkins. My tight end is my worst position. Should I trade Cooper Kupp for Greg Olsen?
No, you're giving away Kupp. If anything, I wouldn't give Watkins for Olsen either. I would aim higher. I would aim for Watkins for Zach Ertz or George Kittle.
So we're on the same page there. So you got Kupp ahead of Watkins.
Yeah.
Me too.
I would start Kupp ahead of Sammy Watkins this week. Against Tampa Bay, the weakness of that defense is their pass defense, and Kupp has proven to be, basically an alternative for the run game for L.A. because they're not giving Todd Gurley 20 touches a week. And Watkins is eventually going to, first of all, he's been bad the last 2 weeks.
Right.
And eventually Tyreek Hill's going to come back, and I think that'll impact the target share for Sammy Watkins significantly. And I would try and if you need a tight end, that's the receiver that I would move. I wouldn't move Kupp.
Yeah, I'm with you.
From the KHTK YouTube channel, Dave, this is from Edgar. He has Stephon Diggs, Courtland Sutton, and Philip Dorsett. He can only play 2 of them. Which one gets sat out?
I will sit Sutton. That's certainly going to be the case if Jalen Ramsey plays. I don't know if Ramsey's going to follow Emmanuel Sanders all over the field or not, but he could end up lining up a bit on Sutton because he's got size and Sutton's got size. Look, Diggs has a good track record against Chicago. I don't know if I really expect him to take advantage of that. It is going to be a tough matchup for him, but I would take his upside over Sutton's, average play so far this season.
Okay. Dave Richard, CBS Sports. By the way, fantasy guys always get called out when they have bad predictions or bad advice. Thank you for Jacoby Brissett over Derek Carr last week.
Oh, you're welcome.
That was very nice.
Do it again this week if those are your only options.
They are my only options. Where can people read you, hear you, listen to you, whatever it is, see you? Where can people do that so they can win their fantasy matchups this weekend?
All the best advice, including DFS advice, is on CBSSports.com. It's totally free, and there's a ton of it. Starts and sits from multiple sources. It's really a great place to get a head start on the rest of your league. We do a podcast every day, an hour long. It's already recorded for today. You can probably download it in about 10 minutes, and you'll be listening to our artistic stylings. And it's an hour show every day, all about fantasy football and only fantasy football. And if that's not enough, Dave, coming up in an hour, live on CBSSportsHQ.com, it's Fantasy Football Today, our live show. We're going to do a lot of DFS stuff on that show. And also, recap what's going on with the Packers and the Eagles. That, a lot of storylines coming out of that game that are going to impact fantasy managers across the globe. So, kicks off at 9 a.m. Pacific time. Check it out on CBSSportsHQ.com.
Follow him on Twitter at Dave Richards, spelled exactly like it sounds. We speak to him every single Friday at 7:35, getting you ready for your weekend fantasy matchups. Okay, buddy, maybe some smack talk next week, but not when both our teams are 2-2. You have yourself a wonderful weekend.
You do the same, Dave. Be well.
All right, you too. That is Dave Richard, CBS Sports.
The Drive.